And I think that people really appreciate that, because I think we've become just so transactional as human beings. And I think that sometimes just focusing on the relational with nothing else in expected in return is just refreshing.
Your business's success depends on relationships with customers, relationships with employees, and relationships with stakeholders. What do they all have in common? They're all human. Because no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Welcome to the Human Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Carl Ponto. Each week I bring you stories, insights, and practical advice from experts that you can apply to your growing company and daily life. This week I'm really excited to connect with Talia Solomon. She recently left her role as head of marketing, calendar, and strategy for Pizza Hut to launch her own brand advisory. Since she started her career, she's always had an itch to embed herself across multiple brands to solve problems and seize opportunities based on a keen instinct for marketing and what drives consumer behavior. Talia's experience is industry agnostic with marketing leadership stints at Pizza Hut, Amazon, Bravo TV, and Weight Watchers. She firmly believes the rules of marketing are fixed, but the language is nuanced, and she loves being a marketing multilinguist, translating ambiguity into action across sectors. Talia's client roster includes cross-industry brands from Del Taco, Maggiano's, Amazon, Papa John's, and JetBuy, where she has been able to come in as a right hand to the CEO or CMO to see, shape, and optimize growth initiatives. Clients all describe Talia as the fast and focused facelift we didn't realize was the key we needed for our brand and business. Congrats on being the fast and focused brand facelift for so many companies, and welcome to the Human Connection Podcast.
Thanks, Carl. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so before we started recording, I love this idea that we're going to be talking about today, where it's a way of making and maintaining those human-to-human connections easier to do for your entire network. And it all has to do with something that everyone has in common, which is everyone has a birthday. So tell me more about this practice you have and how can people apply it? Because from the little we talked about before, I'm already 100% sold on wanting to do it for my own network.
Yeah, no, it's something that I picked up when I had started out my career. So now it's been in effect in practice for, close to 14 or 15 years. But essentially anyone I meet, we all work with, we work with our colleagues, and we know when their birthday is. It just naturally comes up in conversation. And, you wish them a happy birthday, and that's great. But what I think is really my secret weapon is I will always save it in my phone. So if, you mentioned in our conversation that your birthday is October 8th, I've already saved it in my phone, and I've put it on a recurrent annual cycle. So every year I have multiple birthdays that are popping up on the daily, reminding me of someone I worked with at Discovery Channel 10 years ago's birthday, to someone I worked with last year to their birthday. And what I think is super interesting is birthdays are just naturally a moment of introspection. I think people feel really happy, but also kind of vulnerable, because I know I'm always kind of doing a little bit of an audit, like, who am I hearing from? We want to understand who we've made enough of an impact to, who we're important enough to, for them to remember our birthday. And I think it's just a way for me to communicate to people that I've interacted with and worked side by side with from years past to current, that you're important to me. I see you, I celebrate you. And what I honestly also do is I'll even add colleagues or friends' kids' birthdays. So sometimes, like, you'll be in a meeting and someone will mention, oh, I've got to get off early today because it's my son Decker's birthday. That goes in my calendar. And every year I reach out to that person, happy birthday for Decker. And they're like, how do you even remember that? I think it's just the things that are important to others, making them important to us, is how you really can really feel meaningful connection. So yeah, it's a practice that's really paid off in my relationships and my network.
Yeah, I love that that we mentioned about it. It's a time that people in general get more introspective and assess their lives, and it's a time that it really is an opportunity where one of those kind of little extra efforts goes a long way.
Exactly.
And it reminds me of something that I worked with a really great networking coach. Her name's Miley Colmer. And One of the things that I learned how to do from her was just do little check-in calls, and they're called "How are you" calls, and we just, hey, I'm thinking of someone, so you just call them up if you're like driving up like 5 minutes before a meeting. Just call them and say hi. Just thinking about you. You're not asking for anything. You're just saying, hey, you're on my mind, so I'm calling you, letting you know I'm thinking about you. Those are nice, but it often is hard to build that as a habit because it seems like such a little, you're not sure what to say, and there's not really like a,
right. There's no script for those calls.
Yeah.
And it can feel like an imposition to just randomly reach out to someone. But I think that, like, and to your point, it's like, I think oftentimes when people reach out for networking, it's almost for a value exchange. But in this regard, there's nothing. It's just like, it's simply to just see and celebrate you. And I think that people really appreciate that, because I think we've become just so transactional as human beings. And I think that sometimes just focusing on the relational with nothing else in expected in return is just refreshing. And again, I do think that people, we are the center of each of our own personal universes. Like, to me, May 3rd, my birthday, is the most important day in the world. And for you, October 8th is an extremely important day to you. And so I think it's just like showing that you see people, and that, like, decentering ourselves for a moment to be like, this day is important to someone else. It's worthy of taking place in my calendar. It's worthy of having a recurrent calendar invite in my calendar, because you're important enough for me to remember you. And I think us as human beings, we all just want to be seen and celebrated and remembered. We want to be important enough.
Yeah, and it's something that, like the "How are you" calls, like, there's no transaction involved, and but I like that this one it's like the "How are you" call, but on a time when it's really important for them, and it's not necessarily going to be as much of a disruption, because they're probably taking the day off, or they have like some sort of plans where they're celebrating themselves, and so it makes that check-in much more meaningful. And again, I like that by doing it with multiple people, it helps build the habit for yourself to not be stuck in your own head all the time, but be thinking about what other people are doing and what's important to other people, and just reinforces that the habit of understanding and empathizing with other people and what they're feeling on like the day of the counter that isn't necessarily super important to you, but for someone else, it's super important. Yeah,
absolutely.
So I really like that. Besides the one-on-one relationship building aspect of it, it's a regular way to exercise a muscle of thinking about other people first. That, like you said, so many people, especially in the business world, have let that atrophy and don't really know how to think about their team members, or their colleagues, or their employers. And so
I think that's a perfect example of, like, whenever you inherit a team, like I now cross many teams, especially in my advisory world, but even when I, was leading a team at other brands full time, like, I will always ask my team's birthdays. Like, that's one of the first things when I'm getting to know you. I'm like, when are your birthdays? They're all being added to my phone. They're being added to my phone to celebrate that team member and see them when their birthday arises while I'm running the team, but also in a year or 2 or 3 from now, that I can continuously follow up with you. So I think it's like, I think it's a little way to show that you care about someone, obviously getting to know them, their hobbies, their interests, but also their birthday, just to make sure, because again, there's just something psychological, and my background in psychology, there is something about birthdays. That's why we're really happy, but we're also really sad. Taylor Swift has the line in her famous song, "I'm so depressed, I act like it's my birthday every day," because it's like, there's just this like introspection and sometimes ennui that takes place on birthdays. And so I think just paying attention to that and leaning into it is super powerful.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, it just helps people feel seen and recognized and appreciated, that with all the other things that are vying for our attention these days, you took the time out to like wish them a happy birthday. And I'd imagine that it's not, you don't have to be like, spend a whole lot of time, like probably it's like a phone call or a video call, or like nothing super
text, even text is great.
Just something
with a cute gift.
Yeah, like something that Like it doesn't take a whole lot of time, doesn't take a whole lot of expense, but it's one of like the kind of epitome of it's the thought that counts. Where basically you're showing, hey, I know it's your birthday. I'm thinking about you. We're still connected in some way. I see you, and you're valued enough for me to make this effort to keep our relationship going. And that seems like it's such a small gesture that has such a huge ripple effect on that person's well-being and mental health and
your relationship for sure.
Yeah. So they say you have little reminders like on your calendar, or like what's like the tool you use to make this easier?
Yeah. So let's go to an example. Like this past Friday was Regina, who was on my team at Pizza Hut's birthday. Happy birthday, Regina. And Sarah Mathling's birthday, the president that I just supported on Del Taco. So I have 2 birthdays. I don't know if you can see my phone here, but I mean, literally it is a little blurred out. But just go into like the calendar app on your phone. You do plus to add a birthday. I do an all-day event, so it shows at the very top of my calendar. You can just click on all-day event, and then it says repeat. And it's defaulted to repeat never. I repeat every year. And that's all it is. And it's in just the calendar app on your phone.
Yeah, it's so like I have some recurring like reminders for like annual things, like for family birthdays, but I never thought of just extending that out to my network. And it's something that a lot of times when people like there's these when you're trying to build a new habit, it's hard because there's a whole lot of work up front to get started. But this one seems like a really easy habit to build.
Low barrier to entry. Yes. Low barrier to entry habit.
If you like, when you're meeting with someone, if you already have a relationship with them, you just go, oh, by the way, what's your birthday? And explain it. And like, it's you ask each person that once, and it's a easily repeatable question. It's not like a huge, obviously they're going to know their own birthday if they don't have that information.
You're not putting anyone on the spot to ask them their birthday.
It's not a whole lot of effort for the people to recall their birthday. And even just the act of asking, I would imagine people go, oh, well, thank you for, so if you're meeting someone, like meeting your team for the first time, just starting off with, by the way, tell me all your birthdays so I can record them on my phone, and here's why I'm doing it. Just that kind of approach must set a very different tone for that team compared to coming in all business. If you're like, oh, by the way, I want to know about you, all of you, and show you how much you mean to me on your birthday, and build, and like, that's got to be such a refreshing change of pace for so many people when they, compared to how they usually experience a new leader coming in, or a new member to the team, of being like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so frustrating or awkward, or the weird adjustment period. But like coming in with that, hey, I'm wanting to have this personal relationship beyond the business transactional stuff, must be really warm and inviting for people.
Yeah. And it's funny, it's, to speak business and transactions, because I love those too. I love human relationships, but I also like driving business results. When I was at Weight Watchers, I kind of leveraged this insight about birthdays being hyper introspective. And when we actually set a targeting parameter for our Facebook meta campaign, where essentially we knew when people were approaching milestone birthdays. So if someone was approaching a 30-year-old birthday, a 40, a 50, or a 60, we would start to target them a month out, and we'd see that those people were much more receptive to our Weight Watchers message. Like, try, get the confidence you've always wanted, or it's time to invest in yourself. Those messages, as people are approaching those milestone birthdays, there's just an increased propensity to be, again, introspective, likely to invest in oneself, looking to take on more meaningful behavior shifts that are going to set you up for success. And so I think that, again, that was something that I'm able to translate, like this birthday insight to actually driving business outcomes as well. So I think it's just been interesting that was something that I've seen play out in my personal and professional realm, but also on a transaction driving level as well.
Yeah, and I can totally see that working for more B2B
Yes.
level transactions, because you're often the deal's taking 6-12 months to close, and you have to build these really strong relationships with your contacts at the other company. What keeps those moving forward is the personal side of things, not just the business side of things. And so if you're helping, like if you're celebrating like their kids' birthdays, but with it, like by sending them a message or sending like a card to like their like for their kid, and all that, like the other things you mentioned about how you connect with your own team, doing that with the person across the table from you in a B2B transaction is going to make that much more likely to pull through, because it's not just only business. There's that relationship on the personal side. And this example that I heard when I was talking with Josh Tapp last week, and we were recording this episode, it's going to be out in a few weeks, was a great metaphor, is that the transaction is kind of like the rebar, and the relationship is like the concrete. If you're trying to build a good foundation for a building, you need rebar and you need the concrete. You just have one or the other, it's not going to work. Just the personal side of things with no real mutually beneficial transactions, it's going to crack and fade over time. If you just have rebar, it's really hard to put anything on top of it. It's going to be really pointy and painful. When you have both, you have a really strong foundation that lasts for a long time and is resilient, and you can build a successful business on top of. And that birthday side of things is something that I love how simple it is. I love how ubiquitous it is. It's not like, oh, some people don't have birthdays. It's like, nah, that's not how it works. So it's obviously some people don't necessarily celebrate them the same way, but just having a little like, hey, thinking of you on your birthday, happy birthday, that's cool, is just a way to reinforce that relationship on the personal side that makes it possible to build on top of the transactions. And otherwise, if you're just only reaching out when you need something, people are going to quickly stop ignoring you. But when it's hey, just thinking of you on your birthday, happy birthday, or thinking of on your son's birthday, or your daughter's birthday, or your dog's birthday, like little things like that. I love how simple it is. So when you're talking to people, have you ever had someone not want you to reach out to them on your birthday? Like it was ever refused, and so like, no.
I no, that'd be a first. I have not. Maybe if I was like reaching out to someone about a wedding anniversary and they got divorced, but I don't really track wedding anniversaries as closely, but I could imagine maybe that's one. But no, it's always just like, wow, thank you, we need to catch up. Or, it's a really nice, just like perennial check-in.
So yeah, I know some people celebrate their birthdays more than others, and I imagine that there's some people like kind of dread the birthday, but so I was curious if anyone's ever refused to share their birthday with you because they didn't want to be reminded of it.
No, I haven't. I can imagine some people might, and that's okay, but I think maybe sometimes people don't want to share their year. I don't ever ask the year that they're born, Also, loyalty programs have gotten really smart too now. I've noticed when a lot of loyalty programs are taking some of your information when you're signing up, they used to make you have to scroll to your birth year, and now they've just gotten rid of it, because honestly, all they care about is giving you a promo code on your birthday. Doesn't matter that I was born in 87 or not. So yeah, people don't love sharing the year. That makes sense. But the date, I think people are very comfortable with. From my experience.
Yeah, I think it's a practice that I'm really excited. I'm definitely going to be applying this, and it's so simple and easy, but it has it's such a multiplying effect on the relationship, and it's something that I think if more people did it, it would be one of those little catalysts that makes the experience of being in a job or running a business or leading a team a lot more rewarding and fulfilling. And especially when I just saw like there's an article about how people are like employees are more like mad about their jobs because they're not really feeling connected with the leaders of the team aren't connecting well. This is such a simple thing that leaders can do to start trying to rebuild those personal connections and get people more excited about working and being more productive and stuff, because they feel more connected on the personal side to their leaders, and is not as much of a transactional slog anymore. So thank you so much for connecting with me today, Talia. If you enjoyed this episode of the Human Connection Podcast, please leave a review, and share it. If you'd like to connect with myself or Talia, check out the links in the show notes. And remember, no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Happy connecting.